Okay, let's drop the formalities. Pikmin 4 is here, and we finally got gameplay. And that means we have loads of information that range from confirmed to speculative. This video will be broken up into chapters, so make sure you watch every portion that you're curious about. For those old Pikmin fans out there, you might have noticed we have a new onion design now. It definitely is interesting how the onions fuse together into cloves like garlic, so I guess this Master Onion is more of a Master Shallot. In the trailer we see red Pikmin being rediscovered and ice Pikmin being discovered, but ice Pikmin seem to be in a pretty barren location when discovered. I have a theory on that I will cover later in the portion about caves. As for their features, red Pikmin are of course still immune to fire. We don't see yellows using their features, but there is an electric gate in the background of the shot with Oatchi charging. Blue Pikmin also appear of course, but since it isn't shown in the trailer, for the new fans out here, blue Pikmin are immune to water. That's all they got. Speaking of water, ice Pikmin seem to have a really cool solution for this obstacle. As you see here, we can see our protagonist throwing almost 20 ice Pikmin onto this pond. As a result, it freezes over, and all the ice Pikmin become buried in the ice for you to retrieve later most likely. Of course, we don't yet know what consequence this may have if you do pluck them out of the pond. Another ice Pikmin feature is they have the miraculous ability to freeze enemies. As seen in this clip, every hit to this Bulborb adds to a meter. There's even seems to be a very sharp increase when one is eaten. Once frozen, enemies will be helpless to your relentless barrage and fall ill to your Pikmin. However, they don't drop a corpse if they die this way. Instead, they shatter, dropping a nectar. This will be familiar to those who have played Pikmin 2, as this functions exactly the same as Bitter Spray. Ice Pikmin don't seem to sport any other unique features, but in this final bit of news relating to the Pikmin types, it seems very likely that all types will make a return, considering white, purples, and wings appear in the box art, and rocks as well in the YouTube thumbnail. We might just see this colorful cast return in the story mode. How these Pikmin will work in the game is mostly unknown, as Pikmin types are known to undergo massive gameplay changes from game to game. See yellows, see purples, see literally anything else, I guess. It's fickle, their design choices. That is. So any assumptions based on past games are basically a 50-50 shot for being generous here. Now since the entire cast seems to have been revealed to us, you might have noticed someone who behaves like a fellow Pikmin. After ice Pikmin are revealed to us, an alien dog is unveiled to us finally, showing us how much they do indeed resemble Bulborbs. I never doubted you, Olimar. Now sadly, this is not Bulby. This capable canine is called Oatchi. Oatchi is seen completing many tasks and will provide more than enough help to our unnamed protagonist. From charging through mighty ceramic pots to being a reliable mode of transport, it seems there isn't much Oatchi can't do. While riding on the back of our friendly beast here, all of your Pikmin join along for the ride. It even works on the water!
No, that's a lot of...
This will provide quick and safe passage across water for all your Pikmin types. You also seem to be able to throw Pikmin while on their back. I can see this becoming a fan favorite feature already. Not to mention that Oatchi seems to be able to move pellets just like a bread bug would. But it looks like Oatchi will only provide a meager 10 Pikmin strength to whatever they're carrying. We've also been shown Oatchi will have the ability to sniff out castaways. How this will affect gameplay is unknown at the moment, but seems rather integral to the plot. There even seems to be a castaway in the background of this shot with the new boss. Seeing as the director refused to show off HUD and UI elements is hard to say. This exclusion is evident throughout the footage, as fiery blowhogs and even bosses refuse to display health. I would love to talk more on the captains, but strangely, we got very little in terms of information on them. The playable captain flies in on their own personal pod, where we seemingly first discover Oatchi, and then in turn come in contact with the crashed crew, comprised of Shepard, Colin, and a third unnamed crewmate. It seems that not only are they crashed, but later even seem to be unable to join you in space. Whether or not this has impact on gameplay has yet to be seen. I cover this more in the final portion in the video, but that contains more wild speculation type of information. But also, someone has to tend to the castaways, at least I'd have to imagine. So it would make sense if they can only stay in the big spaceship. On the topic of spaceships, there seems to be writing, or a name, not only on the big spaceship, but on the pod as well. Seeing as these characters have matching spacesuits, it only makes sense that your spaceships would also match. The first 4 letters seem to match. It's also written in Pikmin 3's Kopite, so that means we already can translate it. Okay, let's see what it says. HTCUGN. Well, that's just gibberish. Not only that, but the pod only says HTCU. If anyone has a clue as to what this means, if anything, please tell me. With that out of the way, I'd like to move on to something less headache-inducing. and that's landing sites. While it's been hard to tell where one area starts and the other ends in all the clips so far, I feel like we could condense things down to at most 3 unique areas. Throughout the trailer we're shown many angles of the same environment, which allows us to narrow things down to the crash site, a garden, and the playground. The crash site is fairly easy to connect together if it's truly a standalone area. Honestly, this is the only one I feel uncertain about. When we first see our protagonist land, it's in a forest of large leaves. This scenery returns when Oatchi first appears, and no other plants match this visually throughout the trailer until our friends leave the planet for nighttime. One important feature of note in this area is we discover red Pikmin in a ring of red gems. This seems to be a common occurrence throughout the trailer, so take note of that. Starting in the garden, as this is where the trailer starts. Wait, look! Red gems? Really hitting it out of the park here with this landing site stuff already. Even the first scene with the 3 Pikmin coming out of the onion. That's the same landing site as the first one. As we see in this clip, there's a huge stepladder in the middle of this map. There is also the iconic bench behind that. And all these other clips are combat and exploration. We don't care about that right now. Look! Here with the binoculars. Same level, different landing site. Yeah, so we got landing sites, baby. Oddly enough, at the end of everything, we can see this exact landing site with no gems there of all things. But you can clearly make out the outline. We even see a third garden site in this scene where Oatchi is shown pulling a bullboard away. But, of course, we never see this landing site in use. It's actually completely empty. Here in the playground, we have the same situation. Behind the captain past the bridge here, we can make out another landing site just barely. But in our next playground scene, we see the exact same location, but what's this? The Master Onion and Pod are where they weren't? So far, this level seems like it'll be a beachy kind of level, so that's pretty neat if you ask me. This is also the only landing site we see in all of the playground clips. If you've been keeping your eyes peeled this stretch, you have noticed several cyan circles. Well, any Pikmin 2 fans upon seeing these 2 shots can tell you with 100% certainty that these are cave entrances. This light billowing out of the caves is an iconic sight to those who have played Pikmin 2, where holes will glow like this to show you that they still have more to explore. Now that we know this about caves though, I can count about 9 between all the shots. Honestly, like 1 or 2 of these are extremely likely to be duplicate appearances, but it's still a large amount. As for what purpose these caves fill, they probably, just like in Pikmin 2, will have tons of treasure to find and collect. But also it seems, we may be going down to the depths of these caves on occasion to save castaways from certain doom. Or maybe every time will purely be for castaways. For the cave haters in the crowd, I have some good news and some bad news for you guys. Good news is, caves might just be handcrafted. It's too soon to call it, but we see paper bags and other obstacles, so I think we have a chance. The bad news, and oh, this is my favorite part. Ice Pikmin? Look at the Master Shallot. Now look at the box art. Purple and white Pikmin? Pretty weird, right? Don't you think? Maybe. Just maybe we don't get onions for those 2. And we'll have to farm them in caves. And now, where is the Ice Pikmin's onion? Where do we discover them? That's right. In caves. We do not get onions for Ice Pikmin. I'll even venture to say all previous Pikmin will be a part of this story. But purples, white, and Ice Pikmin will need to stay in the ship. And of course, more on that later in the final chapter of this video. Before I end all this lovely cave talk, let's take a look at our friend, who I have dubbed the Raving Longlegs. Seems to be much like a man at legs, this creature is no longer in control. As you can see, this body almost looks like it's rotting away, and then underneath is just bone. Just dry as bone. It's like a zombie. From the few seconds we see them in this video, Raving seems to start suspended from the ceiling, dropping down in a violent spin in response to danger, where it proceeds to long legs boss things, you know, stomp around and whatnot. What is particular though is that in the final shot, the Pikmin seem to be hypnotized in some way, forced to bop up and down under this towering foe. In the next shot, Empress Bulblax returns, and it looks like they forced you to enter the fight from behind, which is not ideal. Any Pikmin veteran will tell you this. Her portion was even shorter than Raving, so all I can say is that the fight looks like it will play exactly like in Pikmin 2, which isn't a bad thing. As for all the other enemies we get to see in the game, I have to say, I wasn't expecting there to be a baby frickin' Snagrit. Look at him! Isn't this thing just so precious? Don't you just love him? While I know that Pikmin 2 proves that baby creatures mean nothing for the potential to see the adult variants of them, I feel like we can safely say adult Snagrets probably return. Watch me eat my words 5 months from now, though. Anyways, first enemy we saw in this direct was Fiery Blowhog. They spit fire, and that's about it. However, this shot shows something pretty interesting about Pikmin here, and it seems we'll be seeing the return of Pikmin being downgraded into buds finally. This feature, I'm pretty sure, was absent from anything that wasn't Pikmin 1. We also see Joustmite's return, appearing in the same spot in a couple of different shots. Yellow Wollywogs appear relatively close to this area as well in the pond Oatchi swims across. In this very same area again, we see this new, Gonna be honest with you guys, I have no clues of what this could be. Let's just call it Newt Newt like everyone else does. I'm honestly afraid of this thing, and I'm just absolutely terrified. But it doesn't look like it's gonna be a threat. I just don't like the way it looks at me. As for extraneous, less important enemies, or just not really enemies in general, we see pellet posies everywhere, of course. They're a staple, you have to have them to get pellets. Yellow and white spectralids make an appearance. There's this conspicuous yellow bulb up here. It could be a candy pop bud, or even the yellow onion. Spicy berries make an appearance way off in the distance in this shot. And of course, female shear grubs and bulborb larvae are in the cave sections. Let's jump into the new interesting roadblock Nintendo plans to throw our way. I wish there was UI and such for all these, but it's whatever I guess. First we see in the trailer is plant roots. They aren't used until later. Pikmin line up and tug at the fallen plant until the soil at its base crumbles away. Honestly, I believe this requires a specific amount of Pikmin, but it's hard to tell exactly what's going on in the gameplay, sadly. Then there's this long dirt wall, which acts exactly how you'd expect it to. You just punch it with as many Pikmin as you can, and it crumbles away. Which, for some reason, they have these cyan-colored gems inside. I'll cover that in next chapter, by the way. This wall is some pretty standard Pikmin stuff, though. Then we see a climbing wall, which is completely new to the Pikmin franchise, but we already see exactly how it works by looking at another obstacle in this trailer. The fragment bridge is made out of the same little cookie-shaped pieces of dirt. And after the climbing wall appears, the Pikmin do a little victory flip, which means the Pikmin in the shot just finished building this wall in that moment. Not only is it interesting how this wall is open to the player, but just the fact it exists is crazy. Like, expect verticality in these areas, guys, because we're climbing now. Another obstacle we never see get open, but we see get used, is something introduced in Pikmin 3 that was based on Pikmin 1. Yeah, the paper bags are littered everywhere in this world. There are so many they even found their ways into the caves. How absurd! Basically, paper bags are boxes that your Pikmin will push off ledges to give you access to a shortcut back up to that ledge. Some less significant obstacles are, of course, the new pots Oatchi smashes through, and sand covering cave entrances. Water, which we might see a lot more of compared to past Pikmin games, of course, is another obstacle. And finally, an electric gate appears in the back of the sandbox scene, and it looks like it should be the same as Pikmin 3. But of course, we can't really tell until we play the game, or see more gameplay. However, there are two mystery obstacles for us to discuss now. First, let's do the easier one. This crystal blue wall on the Empress floor. There's two options as to what it is. First, it's a cartoon version of the crystal walls from Pikmin 3. Second, it's an ice wall and only ice Pikmin can break it down, similar to an electric wall. Then, the final mystery obstacle, well, I don't even know if it is one or not, but in the Raving Longlegs fight, we can clearly see a counter below the escape air vent. Does this mean we can't leave until all the enemies on the boss floor are defeated? I mean, it would make sense if you couldn't just escape without defeating the final big bad of the cave. I mean, treasures don't come free. And yeah, we're collecting treasures in this game, and we see tons of them. I can't quite tell what all of them are, but we can clearly see where. Of course, there is cyan gem piles everywhere. They even are in your walls, like I said earlier. Before I get into the list of treasures, for anyone curious as to how we determined if something was a treasure or not, simply look at the footage. Anything that sparkles red is a treasure. Speaking of which, do you think we are collecting Sparklium again by chance? This energy was vital to the plot of Hey Pikmin, and is what allowed Olimar to escape another unknown planet full of Pikmin. This is potentially a stretch, but it is a possibility. Early on, we see the harmonic synthesizer, and then later on, from a different angle, again we see it. Off in the distance in 2 different shots, we can see what I can only describe as a red ball. Probably an apple. We get a good look at a pair of binoculars for a fair amount of time. This of course confirmed that we are collecting treasures. The stopwatch from the first trailer is now sparkly, so add that to the list. And tucked away in the corner of this clip right here is a sneaky little strawberry. And in this shot, on top of the yellow box, there's a shiny little pumpkin. And here where Oatchi swims around, we can see a boat treasure. And then in the reverse angle of the same shot, we can see a mystery pink lump treasure in the background. There's only one simple treasure left, and lots of other things I've left out so far, so yeah, I haven't forgotten about Bulborbs. I just needed to keep them for this part. As veterans of the series know, Bulborbs are nocturnal, and so the implication that we might be playing Pikmin at night is insane, because this now means Bulborbs are now on the hunt constantly and will be much harder to ambush. Looks almost as if just them seeing you will initiate some sort of chase event. And in the first overhead shot we see what looks like to be dwarf Bulborbs. But honestly, I don't think these guys are dwarf Bulborbs. These might just be the first instance of normal juvenile Bulborbs, much like Bulbears. Points of intrigue about night mode is caves are closed, star gems are scattered all across the map. Maybe this is a chance for tons of treasure. But if you're going into space when this happens, and the rest of the crew stays back, does this mean you only get to play with the 3 other captains at night? Perhaps you even get to use cave Pikmin, as they have no onions and naturally would be left on the surface somewhere. This of course is assuming certain Pikmin types will be restricted like purples and whites from Pikmin 2. There also seems to be huts in the middle of the map here. These might be used to hide from dangerous predators at night, just like the Bulborb we see in the final shot. Of course, the information that happens to be outside of the video alone happens to be every Pikmin type is in the Pikmin 4 YouTube thumbnail, so we get to see winged rock Pikmin, whites and purple Pikmin. This is hopefully means that they're inside the story, but until we see them in the story gameplay, we can't be too certain. Also, we're getting 2-player in some form or fashion, with no online functionality, so I guess get hyped for that. Please tell me if I missed anything, and what you're looking forward to in Pikmin 4. Now, if you've watched this far, subscribe already! I'll always talk about Pikmin until I die.